Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Aging Games podcast. I have a beautiful and very special guest for you today. I have Mollie Engelhart here with me, and we're going to talk about some really interesting topics. We're going to talk about soil health and why it's so important for human health. We're going to talk about nature and God and beautiful divine creation, right? Welcome to the podcast, Mollie. It's so great to have you here. I've been a fan for a long time.
Well, thank you so much for letting me come on and talk and tell my story and share what's important to me
We're so
because,
excited to hear your story. For those who might not be familiar with your work and what you do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Molly?
yes, I'm most well known, I guess, originally for being a vegan chef from Los Angeles. And I transitioned eventually into becoming a Texas cattle rancher. You know, the normal path, vegan chef to
Yeah,
Texas
as
cattle
you do.
rancher, as everybody does. And I had an awakening and a realization that vegan food doesn't exist. And I just went through all of this transformation around that. And I am now ranching in Texas and I have an on farm restaurant. I did have five restaurants in Los Angeles, which we do not have anymore. And I have an on farm restaurant and a farm store and an online e-commerce site, but not like drop shipping. Like I make everything with, if you order a face cream, I made it. It wasn't like made by somebody in China.
Yeah.
And so I have an e-commerce and I write every day for the Epoch Times, which is a newspaper with a large following. And then I just wrote a book and I'm a mother. I didn't have my first child until 37 because I was all like woke and in the whole idea of feminism and workaholicism. And I'm still a workaholic, but I was
Mhm.
blessed with four children after the age of 37. So giving women hope everywhere out there that maybe are scared that they're going to become accidentally childless.
That's beautiful. Congratulations. You're like living the dream life. Absolutely the dream life. So let's start with the veganism. Because,
Yes, ma'am.
we have like a similar path. I went through that as well. I wasn't quite a vegan, but a vegetarian for a long time. And from that, I went to, strict carnivore diet, as a lot of people actually end up doing. Um,
Yes.
how did the vegan diet fail you?
I'm going to say that I'm not one of those people where the vegan diet failed me. Like I said, had children, well, vegan way into my 40s.
Yeah.
And that was that the vegan, I am not one to say that the vegan diet is wrong if
Mhm.
it's what resonates with your body. And I would say that there is people that are A blood type that can be vegan and be healthy. And I'd say that an O blood type, it's absolutely impossible, and a B
Mhm.
blood type, very hard. And so I'm not one of those people that's going to say like carnivore is the way,
Yeah.
veganism is the way, that there is one pathway forward. But what I
Mhm.
am going to say is there is no vegan food. If you think less death is happening because you don't have a steak on your plate, you are mistaken. And I was brought to that reality so clearly and so real by being in touch with nature. By when I started farming again,
Mhm.
I realized that my whole life was based on a lie. And the construct of veganism is the idea of do no harm is not real. The monocrop food system is just as detrimental as the consolidated feedlot system. And all organic produce is fed with bone meal and blood meal and feather meal coming out of that consolidated feedlot system. Every orchard of avocados needs to be protected from ground squirrels, and there's thousands of dead ground squirrels attached to your avocado toast. And so I have no judgment about what feels good for people to put in their mouth as long as it's a whole food in the way God made it for us to have, not like isolate flavonoid, blah, 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 of like some piece of what it is. But if you're having colostrum, I think it's good. If you're having steak, I think it's good. If you're having an avocado, I think it's good. If you're having wheat and it's the whole wheat fresh ground, I think it's good. It's when we take small pieces. If you're eating a beet, no problem. You're eating sugar made from a beet,
Mhm.
problem. So
Yeah.
it and that's where I stand is that and you'll hear these stories of people, I cured my cancer with a vegan diet. I cured my cancer with a carnivore diet. I cured my cancer with a raw living food diet. you know what they cured their cancer from is a no processed food diet. And
Yeah.
that is the reality. And so we can all eat many different versions of a diet. I see people that are on the paleo and then they're eating all these weird snacks that are like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I
Yeah.
thought paleo was like the caveman diet. There was definitely not like chickpea isolates at the
And
in the
these different
paleo
bars, like on the keto
paleo
diet.
friendly, the paleo friendly bar, the keto friendly bar. I'm like, there was no bars in a plastic wrap in the whatever this diet was originally. So
Definitely
that's where I stand about that. And I don't I'm my one of my daughters is vegetarian and three of my kids eat meat. And I do see that her teeth are less healthy. So I have never had a cavity. So I can't say that that impacted me, but
Yeah.
I could say that maybe I passed on some genetic weakness to my daughter and my son and my two sons and my other daughter eat meat and eat bone broth and all that stuff. And my daughter, my fault, arguably, right? She was born into a vegan empire dynasty or whatever,
Yeah.
and mommy changed her mind and she's like, wait, well, I'm not ready to change my mind. And so I understand that. And so, but I do think I do recognize that she's the only one with cavities and she has less straight teeth and will probably need braces. And the
Mhm.
other kids' teeth are straight and their jaw is wider. So I recognize that that is probably due to either vegan food when she was in my belly and then not getting corrected at all when she was born, or, because she's still eating vegetarian diet.
Very interesting. And what happened to your vegan restaurants in California after you
I
came to
tr
this realization?
So I was selling my restaurants. I'd already come to the realization, and I was selling my restaurants for $31 million. It was like success. I worked my patootie off. I now have kids. I'm gonna be a stay-at-home mom. I worked and now I'm gonna get to do this. And then COVID happened, bureaucracy hit, and they shut my restaurants down for no indoor dining for 2.5 years. So I lost three of my five restaurants during COVID. I did not get my $31 million. I did not, and I mean, we were like so close to closing the deal.
Oh my God.
And it was a 4-quarter deal, and I had gone through 3 quarters and hit all my markers. And then we were supposed to close in the second quarter of 2020. So you can see that that didn't.
Oh my
Um, so
God.
I'm now starting over at 47 years old. It's not how I imagined it going. My last two restaurants, I tried to switch them to regenerative and do tallow fries and, wild caught game and bison patty melt and all this stuff. And it was awesome. It was an awesome menu. There was literally no bad reviews on the food, but the vegans protested for weeks on end. They got my Yelp turned off over and over to say permanently closed because that's all crowdsourced nowadays. So if you stand in front of a restaurant and say something is wrong, it's permanently closed, and you get a bunch of people to do that, it will say that you're permanently closed on Google. It'll say you're permanently closed
Wow.
on Yelp, and then it takes weeks to get that all sorted back out again. They forced Yelp to take away my 5,000 five-star reviews over the 15 years that I was open because they said that now that we were serving meat, even though we still had 70% a vegan menu, it was more like a vegan restaurant where you could add regenerative meat to the different
Yeah.
options if you wanted to.
Yeah.
They made them, and I never changed the name, the ownership, the locations, the decor, nothing. They got Yelp to remove all of my 5-star reviews, and then they were able to put tons of 1-star reviews like she's a murderer, blah 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 blah. And so I was unable to weather that storm. I didn't have enough runway. I think if I had had more money for promotions and stuff, I mean, I don't know. It went worldwide. It was viral. I don't know what I could have. I mean, as far as like getting press, I got tons of press. I was on Fox News. I was full page in the New York Post. I mean, it was everywhere. And it didn't translate into customers coming into the restaurant.
How
And so
sad.
that's how I lost my
Oh,
restaurants.
I'm so sorry to hear that. And that changed your path completely in life.
Yes, ma'am. That changed my path. But I had already changed. So during 2013, I learned about regenerative agriculture and I learned about soil microbiology and the importance of soil microbiology. And it started to open my mind. And I realized that food waste was a big issue, that we need to bring our food waste back into the soil system. And
Yes.
I realized that there is no way to make money. There's no way for the oligarchy of the world to like be like, you shouldn't throw food in the trash because that's actually far more detrimental than your car or cow farts or whatever people want to guilt us about.
Yeah.
And so I really was like interested about turning my food waste into soil. I tried to get every like celebrity that would come into the restaurant to buy a farm so I could bring my food waste. I realized I'm the one I've been waiting for. So I buy the farm in California. I get totally green pilled, I guess, and learn about regenerative agriculture and I just get super inspired. But that's how I woke up about veganism as I'm trying to grow vegan
Wow.
vegetables and it's like doesn't exist. So I knew that regenerative agriculture was what I wanted to do. I knew that man or humanity was part of nature and that we had separated ourselves. And that was actually where the disease was coming from. And this idea that we should all go to the cities and live in cities and leave nature alone was a psyop. And
Yeah.
I realized that the environmental movement, which I was, I mean, a loud advocate, and I would say I still am, and I don't think anybody could argue that I'm not an environmentalist. I just don't think driving a Tesla is the answer.
Hmm.
So I had all these awakenings along the way, and I started to like incrementally change. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to change. But I was scared of the vegans, which obviously I had a right to be scared of them because they're kind of the inventors of cancel culture. They're so good at it
Yeah.
before the whole vaccine cancel culture thing. So I knew that I had to be very careful. So I just thought I'll sell my business. I work so hard to somebody, and then I'll start a new business under a new idea. But it didn't go that way. So I tried to switch my old business. That also didn't work. So here I am in Texas farming. We do retreats, all this stuff on Sovereignty Ranch. And
Hmm.
we are, have a restaurant on the farm. We grow all of the protein. So if you eat a hamburger at my restaurant, I raised that cow. I had it as a baby, and then lived its whole life on my ranch, and then we harvested it. And so you're getting a much more, I don't know the right word, but like there's no like
You are
supply
connected to
chain.
your food,
You're
basically.
connected. It's not that we don't use anything. Like we have bananas on the French toast that aren't organic and come from
Yeah,
South or Central America. I'm not saying we are perfect, but you are eating food that has coherency and is from your environment. And the thing is we never do that anymore. And 100 years ago, think about this, nobody had a refrigerator.
that's right.
So everybody was eating food, milk and meat was all coming from your local
Yeah,
environment. And think about, I don't know like how far down the rabbit hole your audience is, but I don't know how much people know about like Veda Austin's work and that water has memory
I had
and
Veda
just
Austin on
all.
the show.
Okay, so like
Yeah,
we know that water has memory and we are water and all the plants are water. So when we're, yes, for thousands of years, grains have traveled more far and spices have traveled more farther. But obviously, like vegetables, dairy, and meat were all from your local environment. And
yeah.
those are all things that are water or a lot of water. And that water has coherency. And when we're drinking raw milk from the land that you're standing on, that creates coherency and health in our body way beyond homogenized milk from multiple cows in one container. Da, da, da. That's like something totally different. And that's creating chaos. So, and then we're eating broccoli from 3,000 miles away, and then we're not even creating soil health. So we're pouring even organic nitrogen or synthetic nitrogen onto a plant and just growing a big broccoli. Well, okay, but plants can't make minerals. They can only get them through the relationship from the soil through the relationship of microbiology. So when we can't skip microbiology, and that's what we're doing, and that's the foundation of disease in this whole country because we're eating food that isn't coherent and it's not causing coherency in our body. And so my hope is that people come here, they eat a patty melt where they with wild yeast that I collected from the trees and the bread and a burger that was from here and kimchi that was fermented here from cabbage that was from here and A2 raw dairy cheese and you're like, "Wow, I feel something different than when I just eat a burger from wherever, drive through. And then I want that to be the ripple effect that they decide to choose something different moment by moment in their own life. And that's like the goal. So I'm not trying to have five restaurants anymore. I'm not trying to have long supply chains. I'm just trying to have a small restaurant and ranch and hospitality business that supports my family and is inspiring people to do the same thing in their community.
It's beautiful. I love that. I wish I had someone like you near me. I mean, it would be
Where
amazing.
are you located?
I'm in Spain right now, but I live in
Oh, I don't.
Gibraltar, so I'm in Europe, and there's nothing like this around us. I mean, they do have restaurants where it's, farm to table, but you don't really know where it's coming from or what's happening. I mean, sometimes it's just a gimmick as well, right? So they try to sell you that whole idea, but you're not actually on that ranch where the food is coming from. So it's quite different. Molly, can you tell us, for some people that might not be familiar with the term regenerative farming, like what is the difference between that and like the farming that's happening, the big agriculture? What is different in what you're doing?
For sure. So, regenerative agriculture is the practice of prioritizing soil. And the idea is that if you grow healthy soil, everything upchain from there is going to be more healthy. And so, I mentioned that the relationship between microbiology and the roots of a plant. So, every single plant is a solar panel designed by God. We're always trying to high tech everything, but I love to say the most high has the most high tech.
Yeah.
And so when a plant is bringing solar energy in through its um, leaves, it's pulling carbon out of the atmosphere. And with that carbon, it's making carbohydrates. Those carbohydrates are being fed through the roots of the plant to the microbiology. And through that relationship, the microbiology is making the minerals in the soil available to the plant. And so it's about creating healthier soil year over year. It's a non-extractive relationship rather than an extractive relationship. And I
Mhm.
think we're confused about dominion. Like, I think as humanity, we're like, we have dominion over the earth. So let's just dominion, dominate. But that's not, I think that the real definition of dominion is probably something more like stewardship. And because everything has been translated from Greek and all of that, I think that we're missing that. And this is so if you want to go in the scientific thing, like I said, there's no minerals in the food without the microbiology, and the microbiology in the soil has a huge overlap with the microbiology in your gut, and they are like the distant relatives that are in the soil that are doing the work for the other part of the world, right? Like it's all interconnected in a perfect divine scientific magic thing that's happening. And when we start messing with those parts, we start getting disease. And so regenerative agriculture is trying to go back to putting healthy soil at the foundation. And so there's six principles that we use to do that. So one is no till. You often see fields being tilled. So no till or low till or less till is one of the really important things because when you break up all the soil, you kill all the microbiology, it dies off, it goes all that carbon goes back up into the atmosphere. And I'm not wanting to fear monger people about carbon in the atmosphere. I'm not afraid of carbon in the atmosphere, but carbon in the soil is a resource that's making us all healthier. And so that is what I'm more saying. And that you want to build carbon year over year so that there's a reserve in the soil so it can abundantly feed us. And so no till. And then cover crops. I like to say the mother is modest, Mother Earth. She's modest, and you want to keep her covered for as much of the year as you can. So when you're in between crops, to have the ground covered with a cover crop, because a living root in the ground creates more carbon, more humus, more of the year. That's the most important thing. And then animal integration. So if you think about herd animals, think about a herd of bison or a herd of gazelle or something, and they're all moving together and they're tight together to protect themselves from um, predators. And so they're eating, they're peeing, they're pooping, they're trampling, and they're probably eating 30 to 50%, and they're moving on and moving on and moving on like that.
Mhm.
Well, we're trying to recreate that. So we move our cows every single day and we move them with an electric fence, and then they go to the next spot and the next spot and the next spot, and they're in a tight area, and then they're peeing, pooping, and getting their saliva. And so their relationship, their microbiology is having the natural relationship with the fields. And we do that. That's called animal integration context. And so you want to farm for the area that you're in. You don't want to try to grow something that doesn't want to grow where you are. Um, and then animal and then biodiversity. So we talk a lot in our culture about diversity, 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 but in nature, we don't care about color, we don't care about sexual orientation in nature. That's not diversity. Diversity is actually diversity of function. So we need many different plants and animals and microbiology and insects that have different functions. And then you want that on your farm too, so that if I have a full-on collapse of lemongrass dies, everything dies, the whole farm doesn't collapse because there's multiple other things,
Hmm.
that there's other diversity of revenue. So you want to have that on multiple different levels. And then you want to have a mix of annuals and perennials, not just monocrops of one thing. So those are the main principles. And then no chemicals or low chemicals. There's no chemical regenerative farming, and then there is regenerative farms that are transitioning off of chemicals. The thing I love about regenerative agriculture is it gives farmers an off ramp where it's not like organic. You have to stop doing the practice for 3 years until you can get the organic certification.
Hmm.
And that's a very hard transition because the farmer's still getting the lower prices. With regenerative agriculture, there's different tiers when you get certified with somebody like Regenified. So the consumer can actually vote with their dollars to help transition the farms off of their dependence on chemicals. And I love that because I do think the governments are not going to save us. We, the people, have to save ourselves. And that I love about regenerative agriculture. So that is the basic practices of regenerative agriculture. And that is what we are practicing here. We don't do any chemicals. We move the animals every day. We plant cover crops. We don't till. We have a no-till seed drill to plant. We have biodiversity. We have orchards. We have row crops. We have cover crops. We have wheat and corn for tortillas in the restaurant. We have all these different things growing on the farm. And we have goats, sheep, cows, and hogs and chickens. So diversity of animals as well. So we really try to mimic nature. Nature never just has one thing growing. That
Hmm.
is not its design. That is not the design, the perfection of the design of nature.
That is such a good point. And yeah, in normal agriculture, you would have like, one thing growing, it's all for wheat, and they do nothing for the health of the soil and all the crap and everything they're spraying on it. I mean, I did this meme a while back and saying that we're the only species on Earth that will poison our own food so other species won't eat it, and then we eat it ourselves. I mean,
Yes,
how crazy is that?
it is crazy. And I write, I wrote a book called Debunked by Nature, and I
Yes.
write every day for the newspaper. And I write a lot about this, that mammals are the only, I mean, humans are the only mammals that have forgotten, like, we don't prioritize water, food, and reproduction, which all mammals do. We
Yeah.
kind of prioritize shelter and comfort, and then we don't care
Entertainment.
and entertainment, which is an extension of comfort, right? And
Yeah.
which is an extension of shelter. But that is just like we don't make reproduction important. We have tons of abortion, we have tons of vasectomies, we have tons of transitioning people in ways that they'll never be able to have children due to gender dysphoria. And so those things are against our own well-being. And every one of us had thousands of people that had to live and toil and war and farm and survive and migrate in order for you to exist right now. And we have forgotten the very simplest. Every mammal knows what to eat. Every mammal knows to breastfeed their children.
Yeah.
Every mammal knows that it's their job to reproduce and to create the next generation. And we don't. We're like, I don't feel like having children. It's not for me. And we are just moving away from what it is. And it is crazy that we poison our food. And I think that the real psyop of the whole environmental movement was to make us think that we're a problem and we don't belong here. And since
Yeah.
we don't belong here, then it's okay that we're being sterilized. When you
Yeah.
look at the male sperm count is right now at, I don't know what it is, like 40% down, but by
Yeah.
2040 in westernized nations there'll be a zero average sperm count of a male will be zero. So we're sterilizing ourselves for the extraction of dollars that are not even backed by anything that is real, and we're doing that because Why? Because we actually, on some low level underneath in our subconscious, think that we're a problem and it would be okay if we all died. That is underneath. And I think that's what they were trying to convince us with the whole environmental movement and the sea is rising and New York City will
Yeah.
be underwater in 20 months. And, all of that was to have us go, well, I guess it's okay that we're getting sterilized
And we are the
because,
problem. They make us feel ashamed for being here. And obviously, we are the carbon they want to eliminate, with the
yes,
whole carbon credits and everything else. And also, this whole population control is really only happening in the Western world.
you're
So,
right. And so I think that, well, I mean, there's been a lot of vaccine stuff in
yeah.
Africa that I don't think it's only happening in
But
the
the
Western world.
population is still growing. Like the
Yes,
sperm count is not dropping like it is in the Western world. So there's something different going on for sure.
for sure. And we have the power. There's more slaves than there is masters. I always say
Yeah.
this. And so we have the power, but we have to use the power and we have to be willing to trade some of that convenience, comfort, and entertainment for resilience. It means driving farther to buy your raw milk, or it means, buying a quarter cow and sharing it with the neighbors. It means doing these things that are a little less convenient. And you may not think it'll make a difference, but like, where I am right now with my farm, I just need six more customers a day to come to the restaurant to get to break even. And so that's not huge. Like that means that every person that makes that choice is a huge percentage, is like
Yeah.
15% of what I need to make the difference, right?
Yeah.
And I have a friend that said if I could just have 10 more families farm 10 more families shop at my farm a month, that we could get to break even. I was talking to my other friend and she was like, I just need 14 more people a quarter to buy a quarter cow or a half cow for us to get break even. So all of these farmers that are white knuckling it out here, trying to do the right thing, trying to grow the food in the right way for their community, we're all losing money. We're all working off farm jobs and we're all like this close. And so what we need is the people, we the people to support us. And whether that is to come to the online store or come stay in a tiny house or go out to eat or whatever it is, these different farms, go buy eggs from them. It makes a huge difference. And when you spend $10 on eggs at a local farm, that money stays in your community. If you go to the grocery store, that money's leaving your community.
And you're right. A lot of times it is about convenience because, you've got the supermarket there, you've got a million things to choose from. Why am I going to drive another 20 miles to get farm fresh eggs or something like that? And that's all it's about. It's I mean, you can of course manage your time differently and also help someone else along the way, help their business. Because I mean, we need more awareness for businesses like yours so that people do take the time to go and support you and understand how important it is, not just for their health, for your business, but also for the earth, for the soil, so that you can continue to do your work. Because if you're not, if you're waiting to break even and then you need to be profitable in order to continue in the long term, people need to support that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know a lot of people like you, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to get started and to do it. And you have all these weather factors, disease. There are so many things that can happen at the blink of an eye.
So many. And that's why I just love to tell people that it does make a huge difference. And I thank every guest, like I went to Utah for a farming conference and I came back and I went right into the restaurant and was working. And I tell every guest every weekend that I'm not doing a speaking engagement or at a conference, I am in the restaurant and I tell every guest, like, thank you so much. This only works if the community supports it. And I just want you to know that it's a huge different, you're making a huge difference for me and my family. And I also have a little card that I put in my online products that say essentially the same thing. And I do think that that is a huge, it is a huge difference. And I don't know that people understand. Or someone said to me the other day, like, in this day and age, shipping is free. And I'm like, well, I can't possibly do free shipping on meat and there's dry ice and there's a cooler and there's all this stuff involved. And but people have this expectation because Amazon is doing free shipping, but they have these crazy deals with the post office and
Yeah.
things that we could never get. And so please understand that it's not like I'm making money on shipping or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are things that the big corporations have these advantages over us. And I know that it's more expensive to buy from me. And I'm grateful for every person that makes that choice because it makes the huge difference for my family and all the families that are getting nutrient dense food from me. I have, people telling me that they're healing their kids' autism and to be able to come and get high level, high integrity food that they can trust in their own community is making a huge difference. People saying, "Oh, my child is getting verbal because they've cut out wheat and they've cut out this, they've cut out that. We come and buy your corn tortillas because we know that you grew them and there's no glyphosate at all." And that kind of thing feels good. And I want to be able to provide that, but I have to be able to pay the light bill too. So I think
Of
that
course.
it makes a difference not just for me and my family, but all the families that depend on us to serve them.
And isn't that amazing what a huge impact food can have? Like the example that you just mentioned, like we kind of take that for granted that our health depends on what we're eating, our environment, and the connection with nature that you were talking about, which is also so important. And we are living so disconnected in these blue lit world, in these blue lit houses and computer screens all the time, completely dehydrated, drinking crappy water from plastic bottles. It's just everything. We've gone off the rail completely. And then all we need to
Totally.
do is just look back a couple of generations, like how our grandparents, our great grandparents, how they lived and what
Yes,
they ate. And we don't have to go that far back.
we don't. And I I was shocked when I moved to Texas because California, to be honest, like people prioritize health more than in Texas. It's shocking how few people, when you're just walking around a store, look like they're living a vital and healthy life.
Yeah.
It, it's it's a very low percentage.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that is sad. That
It's
is
really
sad
sad.
because we are all, have the ability, our genetics want to express as healthy. Our
Yeah.
epigenetics can be turned on and off. You are not stuck with some genetic obesity. You're not stuck with genetic cancer. You get to turn on and off your epigenetics, and we can heal our guts and heal our minds and heal our hearts. And then the expression of our epigenetics will be of health. And it's just so extraordinary. But we've forgotten that.
And I see that things are really changing in Texas, though. A lot of
Yes,
people have left California, and there's quite an amazing community, especially around Austin, right?
yes, yes, for sure.
And with
That's about two
Confluence
hours
and
from us.
everything. I mean, it's really like all my favorite people are in Texas now, which is amazing.
Yeah, I started that Confluence Festival. Did you
Yes,
know?
I know, I know. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about that for those who might not know about it.
Confluence is a confluence of ideas, and we do a festival every year. We started it in California. It was called Sowing Sovereignty during COVID and just gathering and
Hmm.
being together. And then when it was me and Alex Zek started it then. And now we are doing a um, annual festival called Confluence, and it's me and Alex Zek and our two other friends that put it on every year. I actually just jumped off the Confluence planning call to get onto this call.
Oh,
And
nice.
um, we do a 4-day event, and it's speakers and it's breath work and it's, every kind of different thing. We're talking about different modalities and different ways to move forward in the world. And it is a deep honor to be able to provide the space for people to learn and to awaken, and then they go out into their world and be that ripple effect in their communities. And this year we're going to have Veda Austin is going to be one of our keynotes, and of course myself and Alec and
You have
uh
all the quantum biology girls, because I studied quantum
yes,
biology and you had a lot of the faculty members there as well.
yes, and we're having, we always have Eileen McCusack. She's a partner here in the
Yes.
ranch, and
I've had her
uh
on. She's a partner.
yeah, she invested in
Oh,
the ranch here.
wow,
uh
that's amazing. I love her. I've had her on the show as well. She's amazing.
She's extraordinary.
So that's
And so we have all of those different kinds of people coming, and we're having Charles Eisenstein this year as well. And we do all different kinds of ideas and mashups and just let people be in the not knowing and learning because my new position in the world is I know nothing. And I know nothing and I reserve the right to change my mind because
Yeah,
we've all been programmed so much that it's hard to know like what thoughts are our own and what thoughts have been programmed into us. And some of that programming is beneficial and others of it is not beneficial at all.
yeah.
And so it's just a way to break people's heart open and mind open and have them in a space outside of their world on this beautiful regenerative farm, eating regenerative food, learning these extraordinary ideas from water has memory to quantum biology
Hmm.
to breath work to sound healing to learning about changing your status, learning about taxes, learning I mean, we just have people from all different walks of life sharing what they are passionate about. And we are honored to get to hold the container. And really, that's what we're doing is making the container for the education to happen.
And it's so nice that you have like families together and children, and then the children were doing these, they were blindfolded and
Yeah,
reading.
blindfold reading we
Yeah.
have with Edith, Dr. Edith. I think this year there's going to be an early day where you can come and do a adult blindfold reading session with
Wow.
Dr. Edith on the check. Like we're going to have an early check-in day. It'll be $100 extra, but there's going to be an opportunity to do an adult blindfold reading with Dr. Edith.
That is so cool.
Yes.
One of these years, I'm gonna have to come and spend this time with you guys because it's amazing. And like I said, all my favorite people are there. Very, very cool. And Molly, tell us a little bit about your book.
My book is called Debunked by Nature.
Uh-huh.
And it really is just how I take 19 principles of our society and I ask, do they exist in nature? So
Hmm.
some of them are political. I talk about, for example, I say that there's sexual diversity in nature but there's no abandonment of reproduction.
Hmm.
And so that is the difference is we've started to do practices that are abandoning reproduction, taking hormones or vasectomies or abortions or sex change surgeries that make it so we cannot have children.
Yeah,
And that is not a normal behavior for any other being in nature.
yeah,
I talk about racism, that I think it's a human construct that we made up, or racism is a downstream idea from race, but I don't think that race really exists. We're the human race. We're one people, and we have different amounts of melanization
yeah,
debate depending on where we were born. But you never see a sheep have a white baby and be like, how will the herd identify this baby? Like they don't care what colors their babies
yeah,
are. We have made that a thing, and we need to unwind that. And with all the DEI and everything, we've made it more important instead of getting farther away from it.
yeah,
And so I talk about that. I talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how diversity in nature is something very different than what we are referring to in our society right now. And that diversity of function is what we need, diversity of thought is what we need, diversity of ideas is what we need. What color people are and how they have sex is of very little consequence if you have, let's say, in Congress or people. Biden said he had the most diverse administration ever. Well, I don't know. I don't really believe in government at all, but was
yeah,
it the most diverse, or did everybody kind of believe the same thing and think the same thoughts? They just were different shades of the rainbow and different expressions of their sexual identity. That doesn't really help humanity and people and have an inclusive, like, way of the United States. It's just a bunch of people that think the same things and with these small differences. And so I talk about that. I talk about breastfeeding, like
mhm,
why don't we breastfeed for longer? The average is 3 months, and 70% of the breastfeeding time is fed formula in this country. And so why do we do that? We don't see any other animal that opts out of breastfeeding. Occasionally there's a trauma and an animal abandons its child, but it's not what nature does.
yeah,
Co-sleeping, why do we sleep with our kids in another room with an electronic monitor putting EMFs on them so we can watch them from our phone? It's crazy,
yeah,
instead of sleeping next to them. uh so these are different. I talk about um, that there is no safe spaces. Like nature is dangerous. Humanity, like being alive, is innately dangerous,
Yeah.
and that's why we have faith, and so that we can walk in this in all the things that could happen to us and not be afraid, but that we cannot, there is no safe spaces. And this idea of safe spaces is making weaker and weaker people. And if you look at my hands, I have calluses. Now, the first time I got blisters from doing something, should I have stopped doing that thing? Or did I need to push through and get a little bit of a harder skin?
Yeah.
And so we have gotten very soft in our society, and we view discomfort as danger
Yeah.
or bad, instead of it's a necessary part of being alive. And that by avoiding discomfort, we're going to become uh, weaker and weaker and unable to stand up for ourselves ever
Yeah.
when it really is going to count. And so those are a few ideas, but basically I take 19 different concepts and I basically just say these ideas don't exist in nature, and how can we remember that we belong here, and that, you know, being part of humanity and the greater nature and God's design is going to take something. And
Mhm.
it can't just be that we separate and have these ideas that exist in a silo in apartment buildings in cities, but are not real. And so that is what Debunked by Nature is. And I tell stories from my life. I tell how did I go from being this very liberal person that believed these ideas to someone that recognized they don't have foundation, they're not rooted in anything real. And um yeah, and I continue to write, like I said, about these ideas, and it could be anything. Like everything is supposed to be rooted to the earth. You think about our money system is so messed up in fiat currency right now.
Yeah.
Well, but think about the word currency, it's the same root word.
Hmm.
And if it's not grounded, it's dangerous. And so we
Uh-huh.
have money that is not grounded to silver or gold, not
Yeah.
grounded to the earth anymore. So therefore it is dangerous. And if we have electricity that's not grounded to the ground, it is dangerous. And so this is a thing that we all know, but we allowed the Federal Reserve, we allowed all these things, we allowed these central bankers to make these rules where it's a Ponzi scheme. And we are at the very bottom of this Ponzi scheme, being robbed of our time and our wealth and our hours every single day. And so,
Yeah.
I continue to talk about these things even outside of my book, is that we have to get back to being rooted in this place that we live.
Where do you see the world 20 years from now? Where would you like to see
I,
the world?
I would like to see the world that we resisted and we created something different. And I have a 2-year-old, right? So this is important to me. I'm
Yeah.
47 and still breastfeeding. So I desire passionately for there to be a better option for the future. I think it'll probably look like more like a breakout society that kind of goes one direction and another direction, that's like I
Yeah.
want to be connected to the beast system. But I would like to just continue to put my attention on a more Garden of Eden community kind of future, because if you notice, all future depictions that we see on TV, that we see anywhere, are far less freedoms. And they're, if they're like working, they're like there's no freedom, and we're all like kind of in these kind of very structured worlds where you're not
Yeah.
allowed to do anything different, or it's just straight dystopian,
Yeah.
war, terrible, blah blah blah. So I don't want to put my attention on either of those things. I don't know how it's going to look, but I'm fighting with all that I have to have it be something that's not either of those things, not 15-minute cities and not dystopian war burning up,
Yeah.
but something else, something beautiful where we, the people, say no. And this is the time. There's been no empire that's lasted more than 250 years. They
Mhm.
all try to expand their war footprint and turn on the money machines at the end, and they think they can save themselves. And what if we did something different? And
Yeah.
I talk about what if we just turned to like the homesteader mentality for the whole United States, and we just turn inward and we become a food superpower, an organic regenerative food superpower, and we have plenty of oil, and we let the rest of the world like do what they're going to do, and
Yeah.
we really focus on cleaning up our act, cleaning up our soil, cleaning up our food. And so that's the future I'm fighting for, and
Hmm.
I know that it is not a probable, almost certain future, but our collective energy and what we visualize is being captured and harnessed. And so I will not let them harness my fear for their ends. And I will keep imagining a much uh, brighter future. And I'm not ignorant or dumb to not know what
Yeah.
is coming at us hard and fast.
I agree, and I'm with you 100%. Absolutely. Molly, please tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can find more information. Your book is available on Amazon, right?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, and Debunked by Nature is if you want to buy it from my publisher. I always joke and I say that people love to hate Amazon, but they love free shipping more than they hate Amazon. So
That is true.
probably you'll go to Amazon to buy it. But please leave a review. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You can find me on Talk to Molly on Instagram and Twitter and uh, Instagram, Twitter,
Facebook as well, no?
Substack, Facebook, any of those places. And I have a YouTube channel, Talk to Molly, as well. And so I'll be anywhere. I'm the most active on Instagram. That's where I am the most.
Yeah.
And if you want to find our ranch, it's sovereigntyranch.com. If you have enough money in your bank account to buy something small from the store, it would make a huge difference for our family. We have all types of apothecary and tinctures and tallow face cream and comfrey salve and, you know, makeup that I make from scratch that has no
Wow.
chemicals, and I do cheeks and eyes and all different things because I want to have products in the world that we don't feel bad about putting on our face. We don't feel bad. And so I make tons of those products from scratch here on the ranch, and we'd love you to order some of them if you could. And if not, I love to see you daily on Instagram or wherever else, but please find me at any of those places.
Sounds amazing, Molly. Thank you so much for this eye-opening chat. I really enjoyed talking with you. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Molly.